The final session of track 3 is with Matthew Brandt, live streaming data analytics, edutainment content. I'm specifically excited for this one because I enjoy watching Matthew's live stream. He will be on Twitch for 3 hours going through a whole data project. Sometimes he might dive into whatever topic you can imagine. I like it. It's just free form. And as far as curling goes, Matthew, it's probably the most mentally stressful activity on earth, so I don't recommend it. But the floor is yours. If you guys have any questions in the QA, Matthew will answer them at the end of his session.
Thanks, Parker. Oh, wow. Okay, so curling is the most mentally draining exercise on the planet. That's good. I thought snooker was already quite a challenge. So yeah, I'm going to be talking today about live streaming, which is quite close to my heart. I've been live streaming for a little bit over 1.5 years on Twitch. And I'm going to jump straight in. If you'd like to participate, if you want to participate in the discussion, feel free to put stuff in chat. I'm very used to reading chat while I present, so feel free to do that. What I hope that you take away from today is 3 things. 1, why job titles I think are relevant, what gift live streaming has given me, and an exercise on how to construct what's called a brain tree and why you need one. And of course, it is the last session of the day. It's already 9:30 p.m. here in Switzerland. I thought it would be great to include plenty of memes. So that's bonus content for you. First, like a blurb about who I am, because it's obligatory in these kinds of presentations, and most people probably don't know me. I'm actually Swiss Canadian, hence my extreme neutrality. I actually studied international hospitality management, which means I could technically run a hotel, but it also means that I know about service mentality and putting people first. And that helps in a data related job because we are putting people first. We are service providers. I've been spending over 10 years in data analytics. I do use the term full stack analyst, but we'll go into why job titles probably aren't that important in a second. And I've done 2 cohorts on product analytics, one on CXL, one on product folks. And I'm currently a COO and co-founder of my own startup, cookie.ch, which is about bringing food and data together, obviously, 2 of my favorite things. So what are job titles even for? I suppose that's a really good question to kick things off. But ultimately, it's about labeling things, right? Because otherwise we don't know how to assign a label to things. We don't know how to understand concepts. So, you have situations where people call themselves a programmer, and you end up with, people's parents being angry at them for learning SQL, which I hope doesn't happen to anyone here. My parents are definitely not angry at me for learning SQL. So we assign all of these labels to something. So someone tells you they're a data analyst, and then all of these terms like collaboration and statistics, and of course data and writing and knowledge, and there's all of these terms swirling around in your head, but actually it doesn't tell you what they do. It's just an assigned label that kind of rolls up a piece of information. We need labels as humans. We have to classify and categorize, because if we don't, we become overwhelmed. We find it very difficult to process new information. So each new encounter would stress us out incredibly. But labels are kind of a trap, because someone tells you, I'm a data analyst, or someone tells you, I'm a software engineer. It kind of leads you down a certain path that you might not understand what that does to you. And so actually job titles don't really exist, right? Because there's no defined standard for what a job title actually is. You can't go to the dictionary and look up data analyst and find the same definition in every single company on the planet, can you? So why use them in the first place? Well, you could, of course, come up with some arbitrary principle of like, just use your name and we'll give you an industry title. So you can look at this chart and say, okay, I am, in my case, last letter of your first name is a W, so I am Key. First letter of the street you grew up on, don't remember. I am a Key, maybe Y, GUI. And the first letter of my last name is B. So I'm a key GUI director. And this is basically just as nonsense as saying your real job title, in my opinion. I think that there is a better way. And this isn't something that I've needed to come up with. There are plenty of smart people out there that have come up with better ways for a long time. And actually, it increases the whole time that you spend explaining to someone, I'm a data analyst, which takes you 3 seconds, or if you have a longer job title, takes it to 12 seconds, which some of you might be looking at this going, wow, that's just too long, Matthew. I mean, 12 seconds, that's 4 times as long. And yes, granted, it is 4 times as long. But honestly, it's still only 12 seconds. So this comes from the startup world. Many of you have maybe heard of it before. It's called Libs. And it's basically an introductory sentence. And I think that this is a lot more impactful than I'm a full stack analyst. Saying something like, I'm a startup co-founder and part-time content creator, helping others understand our industry and learn more about data analytics by hosting fun and entertaining live streams. There's so much information packed into that 10 to 12 second sentence that it initially spurs off a lot of other thoughts that can guide the conversation a lot better than I'm a data analyst. So I would like to see all of you using Libs in the future and not job titles. So pitch yourself and not your job title is the takeaway here. Now, yeah, this is, I've included this because I made this meme and I'm very happy about it. Some of these are self-made, some of them are not. I'm very pleased with this one because my phone does contain quite a few half-finished SQL queries. You may be surprised to learn, but you are actually watching a live stream right now. And I know that's kind of mind-blowing for some of you, but this is exactly what a live stream is. It is a one-way communication from one person to an audience where you are able to write in chat. That's basically what it is. But you might be asking yourself, would people actually live stream code? Like, why would that be a thing? Like, this is a presentation, right? I'm not showing you how to program something. I'm not writing SQL here. But live streaming is a form of content creation, right? Where you're broadcasting anything in real time to an audience, whether public or private. In this case, it's semi-public, let's say. So I stream on Twitch. Twitch is a live streaming platform that's owned by Amazon, and it's primarily known for gaming content. But tech streams are becoming more common, especially within the last 2 years, along with a couple other genres like music and art, which during the pandemic was just a huge surge in the number of streamers and the type of content being provided because a lot of people were stuck at home. Live streaming causes me grief, a lot of grief, and a lot of headaches, because live streaming is incredibly hard. And anyone who's presented here during the last 2 days, hats off to you, because live streaming is insanely difficult. Giving a webinar, reading chat at the same time, and concentrating on the material you're trying to give is already one level. And then if you take it to the next level where you're actually actively trying to work on something while doing all of the other things, then it starts to get really, really hairy. But I found something interesting during my last 18 to 20 months or so of live streaming, that actually data analytics work is just like streaming. So streaming is about capturing the viewer's attention with a story, much like I'm doing right now. I'm trying to guide you through a story of my journey. It's very meta, I know. And analytics is about finding insights and delivering it to an audience. And what do those two things have in common? Tailoring the message. Tailoring the message to your audience is literally the most important thing. Whether you present sales figures to a salesperson or to a marketing person is going to be different. And whether you present SQL to a data analyst or to someone on Twitch is going to change how you talk about SQL. Whether you wear the Run SQL t-shirt or not is, of course, up to you. I personally like to represent that very much. What have my learnings been surrounding live streaming? You should be honest and transparent with your audience. I'll be honest with you. My partner asked me, did you rehearse this presentation today? And I said, no, I didn't have time. I went through all the slides again, but I did not do a dry run. Talk. Even if you don't think anyone is watching or listening, this is a key one. Very often platforms don't even tell you if anyone is here. I don't know if anyone is here right now. I don't have an active viewer count. All I know is that I'm broadcasting and there may be people there. So I'm talking like people are there. Spend time on what you enjoy, not what you think your audience wants. It's very tempting to try and mutate your content to fit what you think your audience wants to see. But ultimately, it will end up being very unauthentic and fake because you don't believe in it. So stick to what you enjoy and just give it that nice twist. Be clear on rules and guidelines for your space. I did this in the beginning by saying I welcome people to talk and chat during my live stream, like Parker did, saying about his advanced project professional, which is a pretty cool title, actually. Not bad, not bad. One of the ones we use very commonly on Twitch is no backseat coding. It means if I'm coding, I don't want people telling me how to code. I want to learn on my own. And of course, understand your audience. Tailor your storytelling. I mean, I had to do that for today's presentation. I have to do this all the time, and I believe this is one of the key things in good presentations. Anyway, beyond obviously the need for primary keys in a very good relationship, what else can we take away from this? Well, I have been given some gifts. Those gifts are wonderful, and I'm highly appreciative of them. The first is I've made extremely valuable connections within the industry, and I've even made money by sponsoring streams with certain data analytics vendors like Snowplow. I have grown my network in data and programming, not only through streaming, but also being involved in the streaming community, joining several Discord servers, getting to know new people, which has been very valuable for me as well. And of course, my tech skills have surpassed any previous level because I get constant peer review. Of course, I don't ask people to write my code for me on stream, but it is a collaborative process. When I do something and I'm not sure how to continue and I ask the viewers for help, there's usually someone there to help out. And that's constant peer review. It's basically free mentorship constantly. The next and final thing I want to take you through today is something called a brain tree. Now, you might be thinking, I'm a startup founder and a live streamer, and that seems like a bit of a challenge. And you're not wrong. It is very challenging. And that's why over the past several years, I've actually come up with this technique. It probably exists to some extent. I haven't done extensive research on that. But I've come up with this technique to help me, and I believe that it can help you as well. That's why I'm sharing it today. So my day-to-day life is juggling my startup with all of my other projects. Just because I have a startup doesn't mean I dropped everything else, right? I absolutely want to remain attached to the data community. I want to stay up to date on what's happening. I want to be able to come to great events like the summer community days and engage with everyone here and give a presentation. But I can only do that if I manage my time. This is not a time management tool, just to be very clear with you. There's enough of those out there. The problem is that time is finite. And so knowing what tasks or projects or ideas to invest your time in is critical. Now, as a startup founder and content creator at the same time, it's super critical, but I believe it's critical for anyone, which is why I'm telling you about it today. The solution is to create this brain tree. It will give you an easy to understand overview that you need so you can see which skills you're lacking in and how you want to grow. Now, the premise is, of course, that you want to grow. So if you're not the type of person looking for any type of personal growth, then maybe it's not the solution for you, and that's okay. Some people asked me when I talked about this last time, why did you use a tree as an analogy or as a helping tool? And actually, the answer is very simple. Trees want to grow, and people generally want to grow. So that's it. So we covered that. So trees feed off of sunlight. We're not going to go into the whole biology part of, photosynthesis and stuff, because I wouldn't be able to explain it well enough. It's too many years ago. The question you need to ask yourself before embarking on this whole brain tree exercise is, what is your sun? The trees have the sun as a kind of goal. They're always reaching for it, growing upwards, right? So that they can get taller, so they can technically be closer to the sun, or because that scale is relatively useless, whether they're 5 or 6 meters closer to the sun doesn't make a huge difference. What makes a difference is them being taller than the other trees, that they aren't shaded. So what is your sun? What's your personal goal? What are you reaching for? That's the question you need to ask yourself. And then you can start to design your tree. Now, fortunately, the first part of the tree is already drawn for you, the trunk, the big log part in the middle. That's you. You and your innate abilities and your character that you have. All of your flaws and all of your strengths is what makes the trunk. You have your roots in the ground. You know who you are. You can't really change those things a lot. I mean, yes, trees can shed bark and you can also work on certain aspects of your character, but ultimately that's you. But out of you are springing lots of branches. Those are ideas. Ideas come to you all the time. Some of them you discard immediately for whatever reason, but some of them you want to keep. Those become branches. Out of those branches spawn the twigs. Twigs are those tiny, thin little branches. Now, the twigs are the skills that you need to realize those ideas to fruition. It may be something very basic. It could be something a lot more challenging for you. And the leaves that grow from those twigs are the specific skill that you need. And because this is quite an abstract concept, I've chosen to make an example, and it's somewhat meta example. It is namely about today. So one of the ideas I had when I first saw the opportunity was to present here today. So my branch, live stream about live streaming, which is super meta because I'm now also talking about the live stream in this very live stream. So we're at like level 3 or something now. Now, out of that branch of live streaming, there's several twigs. But one of the twigs is about presenting skills. So I need to somehow find a way to present to others. And one of the leaves that comes out of that is slide design. And I am someone who is not a designer. I do not have very good design skills. So I actually took a little online course to help myself understand better slide design. And that is how I landed on the design for my slides today. So the objective is that you don't take a tree image from Google like I did and just plant it on a piece of paper and start drawing on it. You should actually draw your own brain tree. Really, take a pen and paper. I'm sure that all of you still have pen and paper somewhere in your house. And draw your own. Because once you draw the trunk and start drawing those branches, you'll start to see where the real value of this tree comes in. You need to have a few considerations while you draw. The further a branch is from your goal, the lower its importance. So a tree can have lots of branches coming out of it, but only some of those branches are going to be at the top. Those are the things that are the most nearest and dearest for your goal. And that's important. It's important to keep the goal in mind. You also can color leaves across different branches. You can color them the same if they have the same skill set. So for example, slide design is something that carries over to my startup because I need to make slides for our funding round. And slide design helps me there, helps me communicate our message. So I can color those leaves in the same, and I can say, ooh, if I work on slide design, I would actually be helping 2 or 3 of my ideas along. And the last thing is that you can adjust the thickness of your branch as you are drawing. You can actually change the thickness of the branch based on how much effort you think this idea is going to take. And that helps you also understand the bigger things that you want to work on, gives you perspective. Sorry, that was supposed to go to the next slide. So why should you use this? And it's a tree, not a T. I actually didn't catch that one. You should do it because it helps you understand your personal goal better. When you start with a goal and then you start drawing these branches and ideas, you finally start to really give perspective to that goal. And you maybe see that that goal isn't well defined enough, or maybe it's not truly the thing that you really want based on all the ideas and projects that you're writing down. You might change it. You might change your sun. It allows you to invest time in the ideas that inspire you the most or give you the greatest gain. It's a natural sorting mechanism. The best sorting mechanisms come out of nature, right? So it is the easiest way for you to naturally sort the branches to the top. And you might go through 10, 15, 20 iterations of your tree before you land on a sort of, not a final version, but a version that you're happy with for the moment, that you understand and identify with the most. And you can identify your lack in skills and where skills overlap a lot more easily because it's a very visual method. So I can highly recommend doing that. A brain tree unlocks clarity in time planning, ultimately, because it allows you to focus and understand what you should be spending your time on. And with that, I will leave the floor open to questions. I thought I'd end a little bit early, given it is the last session before the cooking bonanza. And thank you very much for listening.
And I'm assuming you're attending the cooking thing?
Yeah.
You're a cooking fan? Question, where does Matty Two Shoes come from? What is that name and why?
Oh, yeah. So this was completely organically born. I wasn't like looking for a nickname or something. What happened was I signed up to a Slack workspace for the first time, and it asked me to put a handle in. And I had recently, for whatever reason, read a thing about goody two shoes. Basically someone who's always striving to be on their best behavior. And I thought that's a nice little quirk, because I do try to behave my best. So I thought I would adopt that as a little quirk handle. And it really grew on me a lot. And it became very funny because I met someone in the data analytics space here in Switzerland at a meetup whose handle was also Two Shoes, Laura Two Shoes. And it was such an odd moment to be like, wait a second. So 2 people in the data space have the same handle. That's beyond coincidence. That's already sort of conspiracy. So
it's like the Spider-Man meme where all of them are pointing at each other. Like, wait.
That's exactly what it is. Absolutely.
Perfect. Do we have any Q&A chat? All right. Looks like we can end a little early. If you are interested in joining the cooking extravaganza, that is going to be on track number 1. And other than that, there are a couple more breakout sessions in track number 1 as well. So we will end this session. Matthew, thank you so much. And this will be recorded. You all will receive it. If you have more questions for Matt, you can reach him in the OA Club Slack. So see you guys. Thank you very much.